Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the Academy of York Wisdom Wednesday webinar. For today's session, I'd like to introduce you to our guest speaker, Carol Fenter. Carol is an experienced leader, social worker, and EWP specialist with diverse skills in clinical, tertiary education, and corporate environments. She holds a master's in occupational social worker from Wits University. Carol started her career at Sanka Alcohol and Drug Center in East London and then worked at numerous non-profit organizations in the field of victim empowerment, disability, and family care before focusing on employee wellness. Carol is passionate about helping individuals to reach their full potential, and education and awareness about mental health issues such as addiction, burnout, and stress. She also believes that tackling the issue of stigma around these issues will create a safer space for individuals to reach out for help when they need it. Carol, very welcome and over to you.
Thank you, Pumla. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today. And today we are going to be speaking about and learning about the very interesting topic of emotional intelligence. So I'm happy to take you through this over the next hour and hope that you can sit back, relax, and absorb some of the information that we're going to go through. And then please note at the end, we will have a question and answer session. So you're welcome to speak up and ask any questions or make any comments then. But also in the meantime, if there's something that comes to mind, please do use the chat function and we'll have a look at that as we go along and definitely at the end as well. All right, so let's get going. But before we go to the topic of the morning, just a friendly reminder from our side that here's an opportunity for you to use your network to study for free at Academy of York. The way that that would work is if you refer a work colleague or a friend, you can earn study credits. So the benefits for you would be that you gain a study buddy, which is always wonderful when you don't have to work, or shall I say, walk the journey of studying alone. You can earn an income because if you've already paid for your course, there would be 500 Rand coming into your pocket. And also then that you can learn new skills and obviously improve your skills, which is really a win-win situation for all. All right, but if you'd like more information on that, please do reach out to the Academy of York team so that you can find out how you can benefit from this. All right, so we've already introduced ourselves this morning, so let's get going and look at the topic. So yeah, emotional intelligence is quite a buzzword in the workplace. I think even in schools these days, you hear of kids hearing about emotional intelligence and speaking about it. And it is quite a new concept, a new psychological concept that came up over the last couple of years. But it is a very, very important concept. So just to quote there, emotional intelligence is a very important skill set, not just to be happier, but also to succeed professionally. So today we're going to share with you, and I'm going to share with you, how you can build your career using your emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is also referred to as emotional quotient. So that's why you'll see as we go along, the abbreviation of EQ will be used. Today, we're going to look at what is emotional intelligence, why is it important in life, the characteristics of a person with high emotional intelligence, how you can use emotional intelligence in your career and to develop your career further, and also just some tips on how you can rate yourself and work out from there if you have high or low emotional intelligence, and then, of course, how you can build it. And the most important thing I want you to hold in mind as we go through this today is that emotional intelligence can be developed, it can be grown. So even as we go along, if you feel, oh my goodness, I actually have low emotional intelligence, Please don't feel that, that's the end of the world, or that somehow it makes you a lesser person. Not at all. It is a muscle that you can strengthen. It is a skill that you can learn. And we definitely will cover some tips on that for you. Right, so looking at what it actually is to start off with, I want to share with you that there are three components really that make us up as a unique individual. You have your actual intelligence, your IQ as we refer to it. You have your personality that's unique to you as well. And then you have your emotional intelligence. And those three make you the unique individual that you are. All right, but emotional intelligence is your ability to understand, to use, and to manage your own emotions in a positive way. And with that, to relieve stress, to communicate effectively, to be able to empathize with others, to overcome challenges that life throws your way, and then to be able to diffuse conflict when you become in conflict, or you find yourself in conflict with other individuals. And there are many elements to emotional intelligence, and I just want to share with you that those components or those elements include your social skills, so your ability to basically have relationships and to socialize with other individuals, and to show them empathy. A very large portion of it is also your self-awareness, and you'll see later when we go through the building blocks of emotional intelligence that your self-awareness is key. You've got to start there, knowing yourself, before you can start moving up the steps or moving up the pyramid of emotional intelligence. Your ambition and your motivation is also a part of it. And then your self-management. So your ability to control your emotions, to manage your emotions, your confidence, your ability to rely on yourself and to really push yourself and to be disciplined. That's all part of it. So as you can see, it's quite a soft skill, as we would refer to it, and it's quite a complex one. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to emotions, how you understand them, how you use them, how you respond to them, and how that impacts on your relationships with other people. So we're going to watch a quick video, and this will also help you just to start to process what this actually means.
We explain emotional intelligence. This is Bob the caveman. Bob either fights or runs away when confronted with a problem. But when his boss gives him a stack of work and a short deadline, he doesn't know what to do. Should he fight or run home to his cave? If Bob understood emotional intelligence, he could overcome his conflict at work without turning to his primitive instincts. He begins to think about personal self-awareness and how it aids in trusting emotions. He realizes that self-regulation manages his emotions, and with practice can even prevent his most impulsive reactions. Motivation, empathy, and social skills are the tools he will need to pick up if he wants to succeed in the ever-changing world. Back at work, Bob asks to meet with his boss about the workload. His boss agrees to extend the project deadline. Bob then asks a colleague for help, and together they get the job done. Grateful, Bob invites them on a hike to his favorite neck of the woods, and they bond over a perfect campfire. Thanks to emotional intelligence, Bob is now doing great at work, and at home too. Visit the Image Partners website.
All right, so hopefully that just gave you a little bit more insight into this concept of emotional intelligence. So really, when we find ourselves in a difficult situation, we have the choice, as that video showed you. We can just flee it, we can just try to run away, ignore it, hide in a cave, like I think Bob did at first. Or we can use our emotional intelligence to overcome that challenge and to problem solve, really, at the end of the day. It's important to realize as well and to understand that we all have different types of intelligence or different types of smart. Some of us are really good and skilled when it comes to, for example, musical skills, or we have a high musical intelligence. Think of someone like Mozart or Beethoven, who created the most beautiful symphonies. I mean, I can barely play chopsticks on the piano. You have other individuals that are brilliant at mathematics and just have a very logical brain as well. Einstein, for example, was one of those. And then on the other scale, you might have people that are quite smart and have a high intelligence in dealing with people and dealing with even themselves and understanding themselves. And the lovely example that you see there on your screen is Marilyn Monroe, who is someone I've always loved and admired. And she was known to have very good interpersonal skills. She knew how to read a room very carefully. She knew how to communicate well with individuals, whether they were presidents, whether they were fancy movie producers, or whether it was, just her colleagues on the set of movies. And that is why she was so well loved and respected in the industry that she was in. So we are all different, and we are all blessed with strengths and smarts in different parts of our lives, or in different aspects of our lives. And it doesn't matter which one we have. We can always sharpen that up. And of course, when it comes to emotional intelligence, like I've already said to you, that is a muscle that we can definitely develop and get strong in. So why is emotional intelligence important in our life? Well, really, if you have high emotional intelligence, you will build good relationships. You'll be able to reduce your personal stress as well as stress when you are within a team or even in a family situation. And you can diffuse stress and conflict, and you'll improve your job satisfaction in the workplace. Because it's never good if we're in a team or in a workspace and we're fighting with individuals or clashing with individuals all the time. We're never going to enjoy our work or get any sort of job satisfaction then. And if you are in a leadership position, emotional intelligence is really important because it helps you to keep your team happy and to keep them productive. And it makes sure that those team members actually want to stay in the job and perform in the job. So you look great as a leader or as a manager, and your team is happy and they are performing, which is what most workplaces want. Being emotionally intelligent is vital because it helps us to navigate life's ups and downs. As I said to you before, life throws challenges at us and we need to problem solve. And the higher your emotional intelligence, or the more emotional intelligence tools and skills you can use, the better you can respond to what life throws your way. And also, people have, studies have shown that people with higher emotional intelligence are better at recognizing and understanding their own emotions. So they don't feel the need to run or hide from their emotions. If they're having a bad day, they can accept that, they can deal with it, they can process that and move through it so that tomorrow is a better day. They don't get completely stuck in those negative emotions, and they don't act out inappropriately on their emotions. So why is it important in the workplace? We've touched on a few things here, but just to share with you, especially if you are working or you're entering a workplace soon, employees who have a higher intelligence very often, or high emotional intelligence, very often develop and grow well in their careers. You often see them being the individuals that work their way up the ladder very quickly. And you might be thinking, well, what do they know that I don't know? Or how come they're getting promoted the way they are? But you often find that employees or individuals with high emotional intelligence have that X factor that makes them stand out. They're really good team players, they perform well. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're the smartest. They still need to learn. Sometimes they make mistakes. They might get into arguments with colleagues, but they know how to work through that. They know how to respond appropriately to that and develop those relationships. And they create a positive work culture in the workplace, which makes employers want them there. When a person has a low emotional intelligence, on the other hand, they often struggle to manage their emotions and their feelings. So you might see them being quite impulsive in the workplace. You might see them, acting out and taking you, quite by surprise. Picture somebody at the printer, for example. The paper's jammed. I mean, printers are notorious for that. The paper jams, you'll see an individual with high emotional intelligence maybe take a bit of a breather, look at this, start opening the machine and try to figure out how to fix this. Someone with low emotional intelligence might suddenly be banging on that printer. You'll find, that they might even be swearing or raising their voice. And other people in the office sort of turn and think, oh my goodness, what is happening here? But they act very quickly on the emotions, and in this state, in this example, it would be anger. And they're not even thinking about what the people in the rest of the office might be thinking about them or noticing while they are banging it on the printer and slamming things. Developing your emotional intelligence can enable you to understand why you behave in a certain way. So that individual banging on, the printer because of the paper jam, they can learn, like, why am I responding in this way? Why am I acting out inappropriately in the workplace? If they step back and they look at that, they may realize, well, that they were really having a rough day. It was one of those days where everything was going wrong. And we all know those days. We've all had them. But, it doesn't mean they had to act out in that way. They could then look at it and think, well, what can I do differently the next time? Maybe I need to step back. Maybe I just need to ask my colleague who's sitting over there, could they possibly come help me because I don't know what's going on with the machine and I am in a rush. If they sort of process it and think about it and take a moment to respond appropriately and then to problem solve and make a good decision, things will go a lot smoother for them. So 4 key elements of emotional intelligence that you can keep in mind. And we've touched on these at the beginning, but hopefully it's starting to make a bit of sense for you now. Firstly, it's that self-awareness. Self-awareness also means being able to understand and know what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and even what your blind spots and your triggers are. You might be an individual that does struggle a bit with anger, and you easily jump to acting out on your anger when somebody triggers you in that way. But knowing that is key, because once you know that, you can do something about it and you can teach yourself and you can learn ways to respond more appropriately and use your anger in a positive way to make sure there's a positive outcome and it doesn't snowball and become this horrible big issue that you need to deal with. Self-management is another key element, and that, as I said to you, is about being able to control your emotions, being able to show some emotional maturity, when things don't go your way or when you are engaging with other individuals, how you can then be goal motivated or goal orientated to make sure you continually striving towards something, working towards something. And it also involves your ability to adapt to change and to adapt to different situations and different stress that comes up in your life, and having resilience, being able to bounce back when these things happen. The third element is social awareness. And really, social awareness is if you imagine yourself walking into, let's say, a meeting. You get called into a meeting, everybody's sitting, at the boardroom table, and you walk in and you're supposed to, let's say, present to the team, or you now need to take over the meeting. Social awareness is also being able to read that room, being able to pick up on what's happening there. I can see from that one's body language, they look very angry. Their arms are crossed, they're frowning, they really don't look happy at all. What has just happened in this room? Maybe I need to break the ice a little bit and I need to diffuse what is happening here. That social awareness also makes an individual with high emotional intelligence very good at adapting to different cultures. Normally, if they travel, they adapt to a new culture very easily, and they enjoy traveling because they quickly learn and can assess what the different cultural norms are within a different group. So it helps them to be able to engage and to interact, very well with others, even if there's great differences between them. And the fourth one is social skills. So social skills, very similar and sort of following on from that social awareness, is that ability to manage conflict, to really be aware of how we interact with other people. You know, how do we ask questions? How do we come across as non-blaming? How do we work together as a team and with another individual? And also being able to be a good mentor to others. So a quick summary just of high versus low emotional intelligence, and hopefully you're starting to see that now. But looking quickly just at some of the aspects of someone with low emotional intelligence, you might find that they're aggressive, they're very demanding. You know, sometimes they come across as a little bit rude or self-centered. They seem very confrontational. If you have high emotional intelligence, you often clash and find it difficult to work with someone with low emotional intelligence, because you can see the behavior and you're trying to understand why they're coming across in this way, but they don't see it. You know, they haven't taken that time, or they don't have that self-awareness yet, and they don't realize that they're always defensive or they're always confrontational when you approach them about a matter that needs to be worked on. They're easily distracted. As I've already said, they can seem selfish. They're poor listeners. They don't wait for somebody to finish a sentence. They just jump in. They've always got an opinion that they feel they need to share. We've already said they can be quite impulsive and just act out. You never quite know where you stand with them, because you know, they're not very consistent. One minute they seem to be fine, and then the next minute, you know, they're banging something on the table and giving you a fright. They're resistant to change. They can be quite passive, so they sit back and let things sort of sort themselves out. They can seem slow, they can seem stubborn, and they can seem very critical of others as well, and fussy and hard to please, and quite a perfectionist sometimes. All right, so I'm sure as you're listening to some of those, or you're reading some of those on the screens, maybe you can think of someone you've worked with, or somebody that you know who shows a lot of these characteristics. And now it's starting to make sense to you, you know, why they are the way they are. And the other side of the high emotional intelligence extreme, or the spectrum there, is a more assertive person, someone who's ambitious, driven, strong-willed. They know what they want. They're quite decisive. They come across as warm, sociable, charming. They can have positive influence and persuade, you know, other people. Hence, they're good team leaders, or leaders, as I mentioned. They're patient. They're more predictable. They're good listeners. You know, they listen to an individual to understand that individual, not just to respond and to jump in and to cut them off mid-sentence. They can be very detailed. They're careful because they've thought things through. So they're also meticulous, systematic, and neat. They seem to be in control, and they seem to be able to manage things that come their way very well. Right, so moving on from there, why do you think it's important to improve your emotional intelligence? I'm hoping that as I've spoken now, you can think of some reasons that, you know, improving your emotional intelligence, or building that muscle, strengthening that muscle, might be something that would be of great value and can really help you navigate life and even navigate your career a lot better. But yeah, some facts that we know from workplace studies that have taken place. Emotional intelligence is important, and it really is highly valued in the workplace. And the reasons for that are some of these studies that I'll quickly share with you, but a study that took place at UC Berkeley, reporting that emotional intelligence is nearly 4 times more powerful than actual intelligence, or IQ, in predicting a person's success. So it's not necessarily, as I said to you before, the smartest person that's succeeding. It's those with higher emotional intelligence, because they've got that X factor in the workplace. And I can share with you that as a manager, when I would interview people for positions, I don't care if they don't know how the system works, or if they don't know all the details of the job, because how could they? You know, they haven't worked there before. They haven't done that particular job before. But if they come across as emotionally intelligent, you know, in that interview, and I can really see that I can connect with them. And this individual shows emotional maturity and problem-solving skills, and is self-motivated and so forth. I'm more likely to hire that individual because I can teach them the skills that's required for the job, and they can certainly learn those skills as well. Then at PepsiCo, they revealed that managers with high emotional intelligence were outperforming the others by at least 15 to 20% of the annual targets that they needed to achieve. At Motorola, employees who were shown to be more productive, that happened when they actually adopted more emotional intelligence programs to relieve their stress. So there was a correlation there between engaging in emotional intelligence programs to sort of upskill themselves there, and then how productive they were in the workplace afterwards. And then also, it's important to know that from 2021, emotional intelligence is considered one of the top 10 job skills needed in the workplace. So you may think, it's IT and computers and so forth. Yes, it may be, but part of that is emotional intelligence as a skill as well. And like I said, we often pick that up in interviews. So here's a quick short video. We're going to start looking at you rating your emotional intelligence now. And here's some things that you can consider.
Hey, here are 5 things that might indicate you have low emotional intelligence. Number 1, when someone gives you critical feedback, you respond with excuses or you try to justify your weakness. Number 2, you refuse to say you're sorry, especially when you know in your heart that you're wrong. Genuine empathy is a key characteristic of someone that has high emotional intelligence. Number 3, you feel you're a bad person because you feel a certain way. People with low emotional intelligence have extremely negative and critical self-talk. Number 4, and this one's important, you blame your circumstances, your environment, or other people for your failures in life. Emotionally intelligent people understand that they alone are responsible for their path in life. And number 5, you depend on or you rely on someone else for your happiness. If you consistently have thoughts like, if I just made more money, or if my spouse or partner would just do X, I would then be happy, then that is a sign of low emotional intelligence. True happiness is found when you make a deep spiritual connection that allows you to be happy and peaceful regardless of your circumstances.
All right, so I'm sure that helped to put it in perspective for you as well. And again, you can probably think of somebody that fits, in this category, definitely struggling with their emotional intelligence, always in conflict with others, blaming others for things that are happening in their life, feeling very guilty about emotions that they feel, not able to process those emotions, and looking for happiness elsewhere, not understanding that happiness comes from within and that it's what, you have to develop and find for yourself, not from others or from other things. So think about, as we start now to really look at you and what you might think your emotional intelligence is sitting at. Is it strong? Is it weak? Does it need a little bit of development? Firstly, observe how you react to other people. Think of yourself in your most recent argument with somebody close to you or somebody at work, for example. And how did you react? Do you think you were quite rational? Do you think you were quite impulsive? Did you give them time to finish speaking and share their part of the story? And then look at yourself within a work environment or even a family environment, and what role do you normally play? And, are you the common denominator there, the one that everybody's always fighting with and you can't understand it and you feel that, everybody's against me, what's going on here? And then do a bit of a self-evaluation, sit and think about, well, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? A strength of mine might be that I'm very confident and assertive, but a weakness might be that I'm easily angered. And when I get angry, I see red and I just go for it. And I just, let off my steam without caring about what anybody else thinks or says at the time. And then also examine how you react in stressful situations. Do you just bounce back? Do you find a way to solve the problems, like Bob in the video at the beginning, maybe collaborating with someone, seeing how they can help you, really starting to look at the problem and unpacking it and tackling it in a rational, manageable way? And then also remember, taking responsibilities for your actions will help you. If you make a mistake, because you're only human, you make a mistake, what do you do about that? How do you fix that mistake? How do you then take responsibility and ownership and step up and say, you know what, I messed up. Don't worry, I'm going to fix this right now. And then always, examine how your actions affect others. When you respond in a certain way, how do the others around you respond? Because remember, their level of emotional intelligence is at play there as well. And think carefully about the individuals around you before you take that action, before you respond in a particular way, because you can often predict how they're going to respond. But if you change the way you respond, or you change the way you act, you're going to change the way they respond and act as well. So there can be a different outcome the next time, for example, you're in an argument. Right. So now we can look at 7 questions that we'll unpack and go through that will help you to rate your EQ. So we're not going to do a proper score, a quiz here, because the truth of the matter is that you can find a lot of quizzes on the internet if you want to look about rating your emotional intelligence, and it asks you questions, how you respond in particular situations, and it will give you a score. But it's not as concrete and as true, if I can put it that way, as your IQ would have been when you did that scientific test when you were at school. Probably, I think we do it somewhere around the age of 10, if I'm not mistaken. That's when I remember doing mine. And I remember it was a multiple choice questionnaire, and I thought, what, the teachers didn't tell us about this. Why are we doing a test in class today? But your emotional intelligence, your IQ, that score is locked down forever. We probably don't even know our school from back whenever sits with that information. But your emotional intelligence score, if you were to do a quiz, will change almost every day, because today you might be in a certain frame of mind or in a certain social situation. Maybe you're a little bit tired because you didn't sleep well last night and the morning got off to a rough start. So you might score a little bit lower. But tomorrow is a good day and you really are on top of things and you're more self-aware and you're noticing how you're impacting on other people. You do the same quiz and your score would be a bit higher. So let's just look at some of those questions that you can ask yourself. Firstly, are you self-aware? And how self-aware are you? Again, that's not a score you can really, come up with. Only you can know the answer. How well do you know and understand yourself? And are you able to focus on yourself and how your actions, your thoughts, and your emotions do or don't align with your own internal values and the standard that you set? So you may believe, that you are a very good person, a very kind person, but are you aware that sometimes your actions and your behavior towards other people or certain people might be saying the opposite, that you're not really a kind and caring person? So it's really taking a step back and doing that introspection and looking at yourself and trying to understand yourself better. Okay, if you're highly self-aware, you can objectively evaluate yourself. It's hard to do. You have to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then manage those emotions and those behaviors and those values that you then know about yourself. And also then understand how those are going to affect other people and how other people are perceiving you. So simply put, those who are highly self-aware can interpret their actions, their feelings, and their thoughts objectively. All right. Then another question to ask yourself is, how well do you get along with other people? At work, for example, how do you get along with your colleagues, your manager, with your employees if you are a leader, and then with the general people in your work environment as well? At all levels, whether it's the receptionist, the cleaner, or whether it's the MD of the business. How well do you get along with them and how well do you interact with them? And at home, look at your relationship with your partner, with your friends in your social circle, when you're in different social situations. Maybe you were invited, to some sort of a birthday party or a wedding over the weekend. How did you interact with those people, and do you get on well with them? Are you able to easily strike up a conversation and to make friends and make connections with people? And then, of course, with other family members as well. And I just want to read this quote to you. Getting along with other people is still the world's most needed skill. With it, there's no limit to what a person can do. We need people. We need the cooperation of others. There is very little that we can do alone. All right, so the more people you can network with, the more relationships you can build in the workplace and, of course, in your social world as well, the more connected you will be. And I was once told when I was younger, and I don't know that I always believed it, but certainly as an adult, I see it now. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And then it's not just who you know, but it's about those relationships with those individuals. And that's really what helps us to succeed in life. Then do you ever feel, why can't I get along with people? Why do I always fight? Or why do other people seem to be fighting with me all the time? Yeah, it's a good question to ask yourself. And then, when you are in those conflict situations, how are you managing that conflict? I know I'm aware that there are some individuals that I will avoid conflict with. I don't want to fight with them because maybe they're better fighters than I am, and they can be a little bit more feisty than me. And I don't want that conflict to escalate. I know I'm going to come off second best. The individuals that I don't mind conflict with, because I know we can resolve it well, and I can resolve it well in that particular situation. And it's important to know that, and to understand then, where do I need to work on things, and who do I need to work on things with? Because conflict isn't always a bad thing. We don't like to have conflict, but we have opposing views. We have differences, so of course we're going to have conflict. But what matters is how we deal with it, and how we react, and how we resolve it. So take the first situation. Yeah, someone says or does something to you that offends you, and you just fire back. You just give them what for, and you just let them know how you feel and how you disagree with them. And what happens is the problem escalates, the situation escalates. It's all about adding fuel to the fire, as they say. So it was a little spark, and next thing, there is a massive fire. And how do you put that fire out afterwards? The second response, or the second situation, would be the same. Someone says or does something that offends you, and then you give a more gentle answer. You use kind words, you apologize for your role in the wrongdoing, if obviously you were in any way wrong, or you use that opportunity to try resolve the conflict and avoid drama. And then the situation will de-escalate. It's calmed. The fire, or the little flame, goes out, because you two are then able to talk in a mature way and to come up with a resolution together. So do you always try to find a win-win solution when you're in conflict with someone? If not, that's what you should be aiming for. Try to collaborate with them, find a solution that works for both, so that both parties win. Try to accommodate them sometimes. There are times we just need to back down, and we need to accept we were wrong, and we just need to accommodate them. Maybe this needs to blow over. Maybe it isn't such a big deal in the end. And also compromising. Maybe we could, meet them halfway and find something that works for both of us, even if it's not 100% what we wanted. But avoiding conflict is not a good way to deal with it, because it's like a pressure cooker. It just boils under the surface, and slowly the pressure builds up until there is a massive explosion. And also, if when you're in conflict, if you're just competing with the other one, you just want to show, you know, that you are smarter or you know better or you are always right, that's never going to be a win-win solution and a win-win situation for you guys. So rather try to look at how you can collaborate with the person and where you can compromise. Those are the best ways to try and deal with conflict. Another question to ask yourself as you measure your emotional intelligence is, do you show empathy and compassion for others? You know, it's very true. And I have this conversation with people every day that life is tough. You know, people are all going through different things. You know, we've had a rough time with everything from the pandemic to the lockdown. We've had so many even natural disasters that have happened across South Africa that have impacted families. We have the economy, you know, really playing not even games, but having a horrible impact on many with job losses and income losses and just high costs of living. Everybody is dealing with something. So you never know what they're going through. And when they arrive at work, what has happened at home or what has been happening in their life that they bring into the workplace. And it really is, if you want to imagine it, like we have invisible backpacks. And those are full. All of us have full backpacks at the moment that we're carrying around. So you can show pity to someone, you know, you can acknowledge that they're suffering, which isn't very constructive or helpful, but at least it's something better than just ignoring it. You can show sympathy, where you really show somebody that you care about the fact that they're suffering and you try to offer some help maybe. But then the really good ones are showing empathy, you know, being able to share with someone that I can feel your suffering as well. I understand it and I feel it. And I'm here for you. I want to, you know, walk a mile in your shoes so that I really know what you're going through and how I can support you during this difficult time. And that is also then compassion, where you want to help relieve the suffering and that they are going through. So give that some thought. You know, where are you on that spectrum? Do you just show pity to others, or do you show genuine compassion, and do you try to help? You know, we can't all be Mother Teresa and rescue everyone, but we can be kinder to each other. Another question is, how well do you cope with change? Do you cope with change at all? You know, change is happening all the time around us every day, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in our home life. One thing that is inevitable is change. It's part of life, and it's an opportunity to grow. You know, we can let change get the better of us and defeat us, or we can look at it in a positive light and say, right, there's some opportunities for me here. I can be guided by my curiosity. I really want to know what it's going to be like on the other side of this. And change is a process. Accepting change is a process, and that's what this graph is showing you. Really, at first we're in denial that there is going to be change, and we might be acting out a little bit, blaming other people. Maybe we blame ourselves for something. Then we start to get really scared, and we feel very doubtful of what the future is going to hold. And then as we process that, we start to move into a space of acceptance, and maybe even just, you know, starting to be curious and excited about what will happen at the end of this change process. We problem solve, we start to put things into place, you know, to prepare for that change that's coming. And then we get to a point where it happens and we're able to move on and we can adjust accordingly. The process is different for different people, and sometimes we do get stuck along the way. It depends on the change that we're going through. But if we can navigate our way through this and understand that change is a process, we can use our emotional intelligence to help us through that process, and we can come out stronger on the other side. So coping better with change, just quickly here, some tips, you know, becoming aware of your feelings around it. You know, are you excited? Are you petrified? Do you feel immobilized? Maybe start to chart your stress. You can use a graph in a similar way. How stressed are you about it today? How excited are you? Just chart it and see yourself moving through it. Don't forget to have empathy with others who are going through the change. Let's imagine it's a workplace change, or it's a big change happening at home. Have empathy for others, but also for yourself. You know, be kind to yourself and understand that you're only human. And then find people you can share your feelings with, that you can share that stress with as well. It might be colleagues in the workplace, it might be some family members you can talk to, but it will help to just navigate that and make you feel that you're not alone through this process. And then practice being optimistic. You know, it's that whole trying to see the glass half full instead of half empty. This change could result in some wonderful things for you down the line. You know, maybe it's just a matter of seeing it through and having hope for the future, and that good things will turn out. Another question to ask yourself is, do you invest in your own personal development? You're attending this session today, so I would say yes. Because learning about emotional intelligence and how you can strengthen it is part of developing yourself personally. And I think it's important to acknowledge that you want to improve yourself and where you'd like to improve. And to keep in mind that we're not perfect. None of us are perfect, and we never reach 100%, you know, but we can always be striving towards that and looking at how we can best develop our emotional health and improve ourselves. It could be reading, it could be attending, you know, courses like this. There's so many ways that you can invest in yourself, and you are the best investment that you'll ever make, because you improve yourself and you improve the life of those around you. The last question is, or I think it might be the last question, are you able to regulate your emotions? You know, when you feel happy, do you know what to do with that? Do you act out appropriately with that happiness? And when you feel sad, do you have methods and skills and strategies to deal with your sadness? Because it's okay to feel sad. It's okay not to feel okay. But you need to do something about it. You can't just get stuck in that sadness. You know, maybe it is that you just need to feel connected with someone. Maybe you do need a good cry. Maybe you just need a little bit of time out to really process what has happened to you. Maybe you need to talk to someone. But how do you deal with your emotions when they come up? Right, so whatever your score is, as I said, you know, you might have answered yes or no to some of those, but whatever it is, you can build your emotional intelligence, and that's what I really want you to keep in mind. And what I mentioned right in the beginning is that emotional intelligence is, there's building blocks. It's like a pyramid, which you see here in front of you. And the very base of that is the self-awareness, getting to know yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your triggers, your blind spots, and then working your way up and working with other individuals until you get to that space where you really are trusted by others, and you trust yourself, and you become a positive influence on others as well. All right, we have a short video here that's going to just summarize what we've been through, and then we're nearing the end.
Emotional intelligence refers to the ability to recognize, interpret, and process emotions in yourself and others. While genetics, upbringing, and environment all play a role, there are steps you can take to develop your emotional intelligence over time. Get to know yourself. Emotionally intelligent people are self-aware. They have a realistic appreciation of their strengths and weaknesses and how they come across to others. Peer feedback is one way of improving your self-awareness and may uncover a few of your emotional blind spots. Learn your triggers. Linked to the notion of self-awareness is knowing how you are likely to respond in particular situations. Think about how you felt the last time you were under pressure. Did these feelings help or hinder you? Recognizing emotions and the source of these emotions can shift your emotional state. Empathize. Seeing things from someone else's perspective will help you understand their values and beliefs. This is important when it comes to motivating and engaging others. Make a conscious effort to get to know your colleagues. Ask open questions and actively listen to what they have to say. rather than simply waiting for your turn to speak. Be on the lookout for body language and other non-verbal signs, as these may tell you more than someone is willing to express out loud. Own your emotions. Part of being emotionally intelligent is about taking responsibility for the way you interact with others. If someone upsets you, pause and reflect on why their actions led you to feel this way, instead of reacting impulsively. Recognize that a conversation is a two-way interaction, and it takes two people to make you angry, sad, or frustrated. Go with your gut. Finally, listen to your body. If your stomach starts doing backflips every time you speak to a senior manager, or your muscles tense up before you go into a meeting, what does this tell you? Counterintuitive as it might seem, emotions can be a valuable source of information when making rational decisions at work. Remember, emotional intelligence isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about learning how to recognize, process, and channel them in a way that benefits you and your team. Enhancing your emotional intelligence requires effort, but it can be achieved with sustained practice.
All right, I think that sums it up very nicely. I hope you found that video useful. Quickly, we're going to touch on just emotional intelligence and leadership, which is a bit of a summary of what we've been through, and we'll finish off just with a few more tips. But really, emotional intelligence is important, as I've already said, for you when you are a leader, because it helps you to develop and maintain a positive and productive workforce, and really to motivate employees to give of their best. And they find that leaders with high emotional intelligence can create an environment where people feel safe, where the employees feel safe, they can take risks and they can share ideas and contribute to the workplace. Leaders with high emotional intelligence are able to resolve conflict situations, and they can adapt quickly to changes within the workplace to achieve the goals that the business has set. And they're also able to effectively collaborate and communicate with others. So that two-way communication makes it a pleasant workplace to be involved in. And if they're not able to share their emotions, they'll find that employees will be less likely to want to share their ideas and less likely to reach their full potential. So if there is leadership with low emotional intelligence in a workplace, it's often a very toxic environment to work in. People feel afraid, they feel scared, they don't want to take risks, they don't want to share ideas because they're afraid of just being, knocked down or ridiculed or ignored. And they don't want to share how they feel because that's frowned upon. So you see high turnover of employees in the workplace. They don't last long there. And they're not encouraged to reach their full potential and take on new challenges and to grow in their roles. And nobody wants to be in a workplace like that. So high emotional intelligence will help you to build relationships, reduce your team stress, diffuse conflicts, and improve job satisfaction at work for everybody. And it also means that there'll be potential to increase the team productivity, and staff will stay. The good staff, the good team members will want to stay in a workplace like that. Right, so quickly to just finish off with how you can boost your emotional intelligence. I've already shared some tips with you, but I think this will be quite helpful. Number one is to recognize your emotions and to name them. So really, if you even have just walked out of a situation where there was some conflict, for example, try to identify what were your emotions. What are you feeling? You might be feeling angry, uncomfortable. As the video said, even note, the physical symptoms you're feeling. Maybe your tummy's tight, maybe your breathing's a bit tight, your heart is racing. But when it comes to those emotions, can you name them? To say I'm fine is not an emotion. Being fine is not an emotion. But feeling good or happy or satisfied, those are emotions. And it's important to identify which emotions come up for you in certain situations. And then practice the pause, stop, think about it, acknowledge what you're feeling, and then think about your next step and how you're going to respond on that emotion. So you need to take a moment before you react. Don't just fly off the knee, or just fly into the situation without having processed it and have a knee-jerk reaction. And also to ask for feedback. This can be quite difficult. We're a little bit afraid of what other people might want to share with us and how they perceive us. But it's really helpful to ask your colleagues, your managers, family, or even close friends, how would they rate your emotional intelligence? How do they think you respond, to difficult situations? Are you empathic? Do you show sympathy? And do you handle conflict well? You may not always get, what you want to hear from them. It can be difficult. But if it's constructive, you can also use that to help yourself see the areas that you need to develop in and then take the steps to do that. And then also learn more by reading. I already shared with you part of self-development might be, reading more about different topics and things. But studies have shown that reading or learning about different people and cultures and challenges will improve your empathy. The deeper your understanding is, the better you can then, not just understand them, but how you can then react, and how your actions may help you and enhance your social awareness when you are with those individuals. All right, and then remember to build relationships. We've already said it's key to business, it's key to a successful career. The stronger those interpersonal relationships. And a good thing to keep in mind, is be first to be of service. So before you ask for help, are you helping others? Are you perceived to be somebody who's offering value and who's positive and who other people see as valuable to have a connection with? So build your network of professional friends and be open, be honest, and be genuinely engaged in their causes and their interests. You can't just always be talking about yourself and looking at what you can get out of that situation. They first need to see you as a source of help, someone they want to be connected with, and then the time will come where they can be of help to you. And quickly, just to improve those interpersonal skills, some things to keep in mind. The top skills are active listening, so listen to understand, not respond, taking responsibility, being someone that's dependable, showing leadership skills, being motivated, being flexible, being patient in different circumstances and with different people, and being willing to collaborate and work together as a team. All right, and then the benefits of building that emotional intelligence muscle is you'll have better relationships, you're going to be happier and healthier, and you're going to manage your stress better. So here's just a last word to finish off with, because we've gone through a lot. And where do you even start? I think this sums it up nicely.
Be kind. This one is really simple. You never know what other people are going through, so default to being kind to everyone.
Simple and easy. Be kind to everyone. Just start there, and then you can start building on the rest of those skills. And you can become emotionally intelligent and have a strong muscle that you can then use to help you navigate through life's challenges and to develop your career in the workplace. All right, so we have finished and we've come to the question and answers. I'm going to just exit here so I can see the screen quickly. And let's see if there's anybody that has any questions, anybody who'd like to engage with us today, any thoughts that they'd like to share. You're welcome to put anything in the chat if you're not feeling confident enough to talk up. Okay, I think it's Jermaine, your hand is up. You like to
Carol.
speak? Hi.
Yeah, look, I have put something there in the chat.
Hmm.
It's something that I feel that it's difficult to deal with, right? Um, it's like, when people basically I don't know, for some reason they maybe feel threatened by me.
Mhm.
So they always want like a reaction out of me. So okay, lately I started keeping quiet. So obviously now that's no reaction. My silence should speak for itself. Um, but besides that, I don't know how else to deal with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Joanne. And I think, that's not very fair on you, because your feelings and your experiences aren't being validated because you keep, you feeling that you need to be quiet, that you can't speak up. And that is hard, and I can understand that your reasons for doing that is because you don't want the conflict, to escalate, or you've got to a point where you feel, I'm sure, quite defeated in the situation. And that is difficult. That is difficult. I do hear what you're saying, and I think you're just going to have to look at what hasn't worked and what haven't you tried yet. Maybe a different response. And of course, not fully knowing, the situation or the individual that you may be, trying to resolve this matter with. But, perhaps when you try to talk to them, they're not listening. Maybe their emotional intelligence is low and their self-awareness is low. But could you perhaps then look at another means of communicating? Could you put it in a letter or an email, I guess these days, or a WhatsApp message where they won't be able to interrupt? They would have no choice but to read what you have to say, and that you can then use that as a platform to express yourself without feeling, that your voice has been taken away from you. And just a quick tip, that you can perhaps try is what we call iMessages. So, I do a lot of counseling with individuals, and even in marriage counseling and that sort of thing, where it gets to a point where people are so worked up, they're so upset with each other, that the communication just becomes around you. You always do that. You said this. You didn't do that. You don't listen to me. And as soon as we say you, automatically the finger is pointing, and we're coming across as quite aggressive and angry. When you say an I message, it's an assertive way of expressing yourself. And a good structure for an I message is to say, I feel upset when you blame me in that way, or when you speak to me in that tone of voice. I need you to be more respectful. I need you to listen to me right now, because I'm important as well. So you immediately change your response, and that individual gets, if I can say, diffused, because they can't just start shouting back, because you are owning your feeling, you are expressing how you're feeling and what you need them to do to change. So sometimes just taking a little strategy like that can be quite helpful. Okay. So yeah, I don't know if that is helpful. I'm
Um,
doing
no,
something
no,
on
it's
this.
definitely helpful, but I think maybe I should elaborate it more. It's like people, they must have the last say,
Mm,
and
mm,
it's
mm,
more of that, I I must come on second best, and they need to be the best. They must always have the last say, and they must always be right. And sometimes it's not. It's like maybe like your manager or it's a work colleague, you
mm,
know.
mm, mm.
But in life, I mean, two wrongs don't make a right.
Exactly.
And there's always three sides to a story, I guess. On
Mm,
my side, your side, and the truth.
so
And
true.
I like to move towards reality, like this is the situation,
Mm,
you know.
mm,
And I think what I'm faced with is like sometimes my words is turned around,
mm, mm.
and I'm very cognizant of who I am, what I represent, what I can bring to the table. You understand?
Okay.
Um, and majority of the time, and I'm sorry to say this, and no offense to anyone on the call, it's generally females. We must be right in the situation.
Okay.
And then you take a step back, and I smile, and then they'll be like, okay, but then why are you smiling? I'm like, okay, if only you just had to listen to what you just said now. Maybe you should record
Mm,
yourself and then
mm,
let's re-have this
mm,
conversation. Then
mm.
they're like, oh, now you're being smart, you know?
Sure.
So I
Mm,
just came to a realization that, yeah, Unfortunately, God created them in that way. They set in in their ways, but it's really frustrating because you wake up in the morning with a purpose, and you always want to be better this year than last year. It's part of your growth and development. And how do you get ahead? I mean, how do you and it's not like I can move away from what I'm doing. I have to work with these people. So
Yes,
yeah, it's
yes.
quite challenging, eh?
I hear you, Jermaine. And you know what? Yes, it's hard sometimes, but when it gets to a point, and again, I say it's not nice when you're not being validated, you're not feeling heard. But I'm going to guess that those individuals have quite low emotional intelligence, and I don't think it's to do with being a female. You just maybe have had a bad experience or are having bad experiences with females with low intelligence. But there is a time, to walk away. And there is a time, to pick your battles. So maybe it's something like that. But also in the workplace, remember, you've always got grievance procedures if you really need to. If it's impacting your ability to do your job and to perform on the job. I think, don't be afraid of engaging with your HR, who is a neutral party, that they can help you to navigate, maybe do some sort of mediation process and help you to develop, a way to work better together. So just, maybe look at some resources that could assist you in that way. All right. I did see somebody else's hand up, but
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Jermaine. Sorry, I know we could talk all day. I don't see the other hand up, so I'm going to assume that individual did put their hand down. And thanks, Jermaine. I see your comment there in the chat. All right. It's 5 past, but I just want to check quickly. Anybody else want to say or comment or question anything? If not, we'll say goodbye, and I'll be back next month to have the next Wisdom Wednesday with you as well. So thank you all for your engagement and for listening. I hope something was helpful today, even if it's just one little skill you could use, maybe like an iMessage or just that self-awareness. And thank you all. Oh, there is a hand up. Sure. Okay, the hand's down. Okay, all right. Primla, are you happy for us to end there? Okay, I see Pumla has posted the link if any of you would like to refer a friend. It's in the chat, so you're very welcome to click on that if you want to see more information about how you can make some money or get some study credits there. All right, but thank you, everyone. I think I'm going to leave you and wish you a good day and wish you well as you develop your emotional intelligence. And hopefully I'll see you all next month again. Thank you.